Thank you so much for meeting with me today, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. The purpose of our meeting today really is to accomplish a number of things. Three specifically that are very important would be number one, the value of your home in today's market. Number two, how much you'll net at the end of the sale. And number three, our unique and custom marketing plan to get your home sold and how we can work together to best position your home for that sale. Fair? Fair. Upfront, do you have any questions that we should cover, or should I just go ahead and get right into it? Naturally, they're going to say, oh, no questions right now, but if we think of anything, then we'll definitely let you know. I'll say, okay, perfect. So the first thing that I want to discuss is the value of your home in today's market. One thing I want you to know is that anytime I determine the value of your home or any other, I do it the exact same way an appraiser would. Why? Because one thing that I know for sure is that three people must be satisfied with the sales price in order for your home to sell. Number one, you, of course, the seller, have to agree on the price. Number two, the buyer. The buyer has to agree on the price, otherwise, they're not going to submit an offer. And number three, the appraiser. The appraiser has to agree on the price, otherwise, they're not going to allow that bank to lend money to the buyer. Okay, so how does an appraiser determine value? Appraisers determine value by looking at properties that have officially sold in the past 6 months. They look at properties within that same neighborhood, plus or minus 300 square feet, plus or minus one bedroom, one bathroom, and properties with similar upgrades and condition. Now, I want you to know that properties with similar upgrades and condition can be subjective. You may like tile, I may like laminate. Yet we're going to work together and look at these comparable sales, these homes that have sold that meet this criteria, and determine together what we think about those properties in comparison to yours, okay? Now, some factors that can add or subtract value are the lot square footage, how big is your yard, front, back? Are you on the corner versus in between two homes? The location of the home, are you in a cul-de-sac or are you on a busier street? You have a nice view of maybe the mountains, or do you have a view of the freeway? Because those are two different views and they come with different values. And lastly, bonuses could be, having a deck, a balcony, a sunroom, I don't know, pools, spas, things like that that can add or subtract value. Okay. Now, oh, sorry. So now we're going to talk about homes that have officially sold that meet this criteria. And what we're looking to do is create a bracket. What's the most your home can sell for, and what's the least your home can sell for? So what I'll do at this point in the presentation, guys, is I'll actually pull up my comps. So I don't have comps prepared for this training because obviously it's just more of me teaching you guys how to present, but I'll show you guys how I actually will go over comps with the seller because I have some comps prepared for a listing presentation I have coming up. So what I'll tell them is, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at homes that have officially sold in the last 6 months and determine if they're what their value is in compared to yours. And so that way we can agree on a price to position your home for sale, okay? They'll say, okay. And then I'll pull out the comps and I'll say this one, as you guys can see on the top line, I have a couple things highlighted. So I'll have the address, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage. It is officially sold, so that way they know it's not active or pending. The price in which it's sold, the days on market, so how long was it on the market, and then the day that it closed. So remember, I'm just reaffirming that all this information is important and then matching it to that by the highlighted information. Also, I'm having notes on the bottom that I can include. So I'm just writing certain things like, oh, this home was 100 square feet smaller or bigger. I thought it was in superior, inferior condition based on these things. And so I'm just adding my notes there. On the back side, I'm having the photos that were in the MLS. So any photos that were provided will also be in there. So I have 3 of these, okay? I walk them through each of them and I go over my notes. After I get done presenting that information, I ask them this question. Based on the information that we just reviewed, where would you value your home? So you see that I don't upfront tell them what I think that they should list at. I allow them to take part in determining where we should position the home. If they say a price that is lower than the amount that I had in mind going into that meeting, I'm going with that price. Why? The reason why I'm going with the price that they have suggested, if it's lower than the price I had in mind, is because I understand that by offering, or I guess publicizing a lower price, it's going to expand the buyer pool. The amount of people that can afford that home is going to increase as the price goes down. And at the end of the day, when you're listing a home, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the price that you're going to close at. Therefore, if we list the home at their price, which was lower than mine, I know that through multiple offers and through my marketing plan, I can bid those buyers up against each other to ultimately get to the price that I know we can sell it at. Especially in today's market, with there being so many buyers and so few homes for sale, underpricing a home, very rarely are you going to close escrow at a value under what it's actually worth, unless it's an off-market property where you can't actually take buyers who are doing financing because of the upgrading condition of the home. But that's a separate conversation. Okay. Now, if they mention, the seller that is, a price that is higher than the amount that I had initially determined it being worth going into that meeting, I'm going to do one of two things. Number one, I'm going to um, I'm going to either ask them how they arrived at that price, because I'm going to come from a place of curiosity. Maybe it is that they know something that I don't know. So I'm going to come from a place of curiosity. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, how did you arrive at that price? And they might say something that I wasn't aware of, and due to that new information, I might go with that price. Um, but what I'll mention is, if they don't give me any data that truly supports me going up to that price, I'll say things like, now later in the presentation, we're going to talk about why it's important that we position the home for sale that's going to be attractive to a bigger amount of buyers to ultimately get people into the home. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to accept that price, but what I would encourage you to do is at least give a price that's going to encourage more people to come into the home. So would you be okay if we listed the home under, and then ultimately you at the end of the day get to determine whether you want to accept that offer or not? Would that be fine? If they say no and they're adamant about going with their price, then I will say this. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm happy with listing the home at that price. But one thing I want to ask you, because you know what, I'd rather turn you down now than let you down later. The last thing I want to do is overpromise and underdeliver, because that's not who I am as a professional nor a man. So what I'm asking is, if we do list at that price and we don't get any offers in the first 14 days for whatever reason, would you be okay changing that price to the price we talked about earlier? And if they say yes, perfect, I'm moving forward. If they say no, I need to make a business decision at that point. I need to decide if I want to take an overpriced listing that's probably not going to sell, and just do my best to market that home and hope that the market appreciates to that price during the duration of that listing, or walk away and just say, you know what, I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm just going to decide to not move forward with the opportunity. So that's how I go about it, guys. It could be a very easy conversation, or it can be a very challenging conversation. But at the end of the day, what I'm looking to do is just give them data and really just be their advocate, because I don't want to lie to them. I don't want to tell them that their aspiration should be here when really we're only going to be here. And so that's how I go about pricing. So then I'll say, great. So it sounds like we've come to an agreement on price. Now that we understand the value of your home, let's talk about what you'll net at the end of the sale. So what I'll also take with me, not just the comps, is their net sheet. And it'll look something like this. So you guys can see it has all the sellers numbers here. So it'll be the estimated, or excuse me, the sales price. It'll be their loan balance, and then how much they're netting at closing. So I'll say, if we were to sell your home at $460,000 and you had a balance of $180,000 and you were able to net $240,000, would that amount get you where you need to go? Okay, that's my question. Would that amount get you where you need to go? If their answer is yes, great, we're moving on to the marketing plan. If their answer is no, then we need to talk about how we can get them to the amount of money that is necessary to get them where they need to go. okay? The worst thing that you can do is move on in your presentation when they're hung up on what you just went over, because now they're not focused on anything you have to say for the remainder of that time together. So make sure that amount that they're going to net is in fact how much they need to get where they need to go. Okay, cool. Then I'll say, okay, great. Now that we've gone over the value of your home in today's market and how much you're going to net at the end of the sale, the last thing for us to cover is our unique and custom marketing plan to get your home sold. And remember, if there's anything that you would like to add to this marketing plan, feel free to mention it. And if there's anything that you would like to remove, please mention it, because at the end of the day, I want this to be a true partnership and I want to work together. And at the end of the day, all I can do is provide my professional opinion and make sure that it is okay with you because you're the captain, not me. Okay. So then I'll move on and I'll say, perfect, let's jump into our marketing plan. So what differentiates us from our competition? You know, there's 24,000 licensed real estate agents in San Diego County. I'm blessed to have the opportunity to be meeting with you today and going over how we're going to best position your home for sale. And one thing I've learned in the 5 years that I've been in this business is that most agents, not all, but most, will do what I call the 3 Ps of real estate. They will put a sign in the yard, put the property on the multiple listing service, which is the resource that we use to post our listings and schedule showings. And then they'll pray for an agent like us to bring a buyer. I want you to know that we don't follow that method. Yes, we do the first two of those things, but we also take a very proactive approach in getting your home sold. And we actually go out and look for buyers to pull towards your home to ultimately get as many people interested in it as possible. And we'll go into how we do that next. Any questions? They'll typically say no. Perfect. So one thing that we already went over was the value of your home in today's market and how we're going to best position it for sale. But this is something that I really want to go over with you because I find it important that you understand the psychology around why we decided the price that we did. Now, one thing I want you to understand within this graph here is this is market value. So market value is basically the information that we reviewed earlier with how appraisers determine value. If we follow those points, then we'll arrive at a price that is true market value, right? We're not overpricing and we're not underpricing. We're doing the price that we feel is appropriate based on what is sold. If you list your home at market value, 60% of the market will come out and see your home. These are individuals who are looking in your neighborhood and that can afford to purchase your home. Only 60% will come out and see it. Why? Well, maybe they were out of town, maybe their realtor didn't tell them, maybe they didn't see it online. For whatever reason, only 60% of that buyer pool that's interested in buying in your neighborhood and that can afford your home will come out and see it. However, if you overprice your home, even just by 10%, those results are cut in half, and only 30% of the market will come out and see your home. On the other hand, if you underprice your home, let's say you underprice it 10%, 75% of the buyers in the market that are looking in your neighborhood and that can afford your home will come out and see your property. And that's why it's so important that we arrive at a price that is going to be attractive to the buyers who are interested in buying in your neighborhood. Does that make sense? And then they'll say yes, okay? Notice how every time I'm going through a slide, I'm asking them, does that make sense? Do you understand? Is that okay? Got it? Right? I'm making sure they're not hung up on that, making sure they don't have questions on that. I don't want to advance if they're still hung up on it. So how do we best position your home for sale? It all starts with pre-marketing. Are you familiar with Apple products by chance? And then I'll look to see if they have an iPhone on the table, a Mac somewhere that I can identify. And then I'll say, great. Well, what is Apple infamous for? Pre-marketing. Every time Apple is releasing a new product, you know months in advance of that property actually being available to purchase. Why? Because Apple understands that if you can get a large buyer pool of people to be interested, they're going to tell their family and their friends about their upcoming purchase. Because of that, they're able to put together a huge demand. So that way, when that property hits the market, they have a line of people out the door waiting to buy that product. We take the same approach when selling homes. When we agree to work together, we don't rush in putting your home on the market. What we would rather do is prep the home for sale and do a number of things that we'll go over shortly to arrive at a date where we are confident that we're going to have a number of buyers waiting to see your home. Does that make sense? Yes, perfect. So, how do we pre market homes? We start by calling your surrounding neighbors. We're typically calling 100 to 200 neighbors, depending on the location of the home. And what we say during that phone call is, "Hey, neighbor, this is Kevin with Keller Williams Realty. I'm not sure if you know, your neighbor at 123 Main Street has just listed their home for sale. And I wanted to invite you to our grand opening, which is going to be on Saturday and Sunday, December 2nd and 3rd from 1 to 4 p.m. Do you know anybody interested in purchasing a home or becoming your neighbor?" And if anybody says that they are interested or if they know of anybody, then we're taking those notes down, we're collecting their information, and we're putting them on our list of buyers. Okay? The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to hand deliver invitations. We understand that the person who purchases this home likely is going to be somebody who already lives in the neighborhood, like a renter, or is a family member of somebody who does, right? Because they know what they can expect when moving into that neighborhood. So we want to make sure that we have a good marketing presence to the neighborhood already. Now, with hand delivering invitations in the world that we're in today, can be a little bit challenging. So rather than knocking on people's doors and handing them an invitation, what we're going to do instead is we're actually going to be mailing them those invitations, just to make sure that we're following all health protocols and we're not putting anybody at risk by doing so. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. The next step is going to be professional photography. So I am not a professional photographer. However, I delegate all of that work to a business called Photogenic San Diego. And they're going to be the ones who do professional photography, video, as well as a video walkthrough and a virtual tour. So if anybody doesn't want to come out and see the home, they can actually move through the home, almost like Google Maps, if you will, where they can see every corner of the home. Again, we're going to do professional photography so that way it really stands out online. And then we're going to do a video where it's me walking through the home, explaining what types of floors, what types of counters, what types of um, um, flooring upstairs, and bathroom layouts and backsplashes and appliances and everything else. So we also understand that 98% of home buyers rank photography as the most important feature online. And so we want to make sure we have a strong presence there. Do you have any objections or any questions on that? And they'll say yes or no. Another thing that we understand is that 9 out of 10 home buyers start their search online. In fact, most of them start their search almost a year in advance of ever being ready. Nonetheless, the people who are ready today and are actively searching are on sites like Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, and what we want to do is make sure that we syndicate to all of those platforms. Now, this isn't really anything to brag about because all we have to do is click one button on the MLS, which is the resource that we use, and it syndicates to all those platforms. But this is really important because we want to make sure that if somebody is online and they're shopping for homes, that your home is featured there. Is this okay? Yes. And another thing that we do, and what I believe to be the most effective way to market homes in today's world, is social media advertisement. Why do I think that that's so effective? The reason why is because we can take a more proactive approach to getting your home sold. And what do I mean by that? Well, when we post your home online on social media, we're able to actually track what's called insights, which basically shows us how many people saw that post, how many people liked that post, commented, and shared it. Okay. And if we're able to see that data, number one, we're able to see how many people are interested. But two, we're actually able to direct message that individual who liked it or commented or shared it and ask them if they or anybody that they know is interested. And by doing that, we're able to put those people onto our buyer list as we've done with the other methods. So that way, when your home hits the market, they're at the grand opening and we know for sure, and we can collect that information rather than just sending them a postcard and not knowing if they actually even looked at that postcard, if they shared it with a friend or a family member, or if they're planning on attending. So, social media to me is the most effective because we're able to see those insights and we're able to engage with that audience. Does that make sense? Perfect. So, why do we do all of this? Why do we do all of this pre-marketing? Well, the reason why we do it is not because we want to be celebrities. It's not because we want to um, throw bait out for people. The reason why we do it is because we want to plan a date where everybody can come together on the same date at the same time and they can see their competition. Because one thing I know for sure is if we allow people to see the home at different dates, at different times, where there's nobody else at the house, it's just them and their agent, and they're walking through the home and they really like the home, what's the first question they typically ask their agent? What price do you think we can get this home for? Yet, if they arrive to the house and there is a line of people, or let's just say a person in the house and a person waiting after them for them to finish up, now what's their thought process? Now what question are they asking their agent? Wow, look how busy it is. Do you think we'll have an opportunity to buy this one? Very different dialogue, very different thought process. And what we've done in the past is we've done what's called a mega open house, where we allow everybody to come on a specific date at a specific time. Right now, due to what's going on, we aren't able to hold open houses. Unfortunately, the California Association of Realtors told us that we cannot hold them during this time. However, what I would recommend is allowing showings on 2 days. Nobody can see it before and nobody can see it after as long as we have multiple offers. But 2 days, about a 4 to 5 hour block, 15-minute showings, back to back to back to back. That way, the same conversation is had with those buyers and that agent because they're seeing somebody go in and they're seeing somebody come out. And it's likely that when they see that home, as beautiful as this is, they're going to want to submit an offer. And because they see their competition, they're going to be emotionally invested in that house and they're going to submit their highest and best offer. Is that okay with you? And they'll say yes or no. Next, I want to go over what it is that we do. We don't go over this in our presentation. However, this is a list of everything that we do from before the listing appointment, at the listing appointment, when we actually go to list your home, once we get an offer. Again, we don't go over this today. However, I will send you a copy of this via email. Cool. And we're just about finished up, but one thing I want you to know is that we have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. We understand that we aren't always the best fit for everybody, but if you give us an opportunity, we promise this, that we will do everything in our power to make this the best experience possible for you. And if for whatever reason you feel like we're not doing our job, all we ask is you give us 24 hours to correct the issue. If we cannot, we happily cancel the contract. We lost fair and square. Again, we front all the marketing costs. You won't have to pay for anything like that. So I just want you to know that I'm very confident in our ability to sell your home and take care of you. But at the end of the day, if you feel like there's nothing that we can, if you feel at the end of the day that we're not a good fit, then I totally understand. Last thing I want to go over is our commission. And up front, I want you to know that that number was already built in to this figure here. So you'll see the commissions and fees on this side. So this 6% total commission is already built into this, but what does that commission actually go towards? So 6% is a standard in our industry, but it's not the amount that we actually take home. As the listing agent and the agent representing you in the sale, we earn 3.5%, and the agent who brings the buyer earns 2.5%, which makes up a total of 6%. Now, why do we earn 3.5 when the agent who brings the buyer earns 2.5? Typically, the reason why that happens is because, as I mentioned earlier, because we're representing you on the sale, we have a lot of costs associated that aren't guaranteed to be reimbursed if the home doesn't sell. So there's a number of things that you can see on this list that we cover and we pay for up front and then are reimbursed on the back end. So another thing that I want you to know is me personally, if I end up representing the buyer, so let's say somebody comes unrepresented or they call me and they want to purchase your home directly, I will actually give you 1% back. So it'll be a total of 5% at that point, not a total of 6. So that's just something that I do. But here at the bottom, I want you to know that if, as mentioned earlier, if there's anything that we are not offering and you've heard other agents mention, please bring it up. Our job is to provide you with the highest level results, and we thank you so much for trusting us. Is there any questions that I can answer for you today, or are you ready to move forward towards the paperwork?